Namaste. Welcome to your practice. This is a practice to remind you to come home to yourself. In those times where it feels like the ground is shifting under you and every day feels like a new piece of confusing news, it's hard to know what we can rely on. So in this practice, we're going to strip away some of the extra things and see if we can come home to the essential practice of yoga for us. And what that means for you is going to be unique to you, just like it is for me. We'll start with a few moments in meditation. If it feels right, you can just be seated in any comfortable position. Lie down if that's what's going to serve you right now. If it feels okay for you to keep your eyes open, you can do that. Or you're always welcome to close them if that feels better. Then as we stay here for a few moments, I want to invite you just to notice any sensation that you can feel on your skin, the air around you. Feel the breath maybe as it comes and goes in the body. And if that doesn't feel like something you want to connect with right now, then stay with external sensations, maybe taking in the feeling of your legs or your hips supported on the earth. Letting the weight be a little bit heavy. And then reflect for a moment that today you have a yoga mat that you're using. Maybe you have some other props that you're using. You have a room where you're practicing yoga. And remind yourself that although you have these things and you're going to use these things today, you are not these things. You are not your yoga mat. You are not your blocks. You're not a blanket. You're not the room where you're practicing yoga. You also have clothes that you're wearing. Maybe it's a special outfit that you put on to do your yoga class. Maybe it's just what you've been wearing all day. And although you will use this clothing, although it's maybe chosen for its function, you're not your yoga clothing any more than you are any other item of clothing that you wear. In the same way, you're not your watch, not your jewelry, you're not your possessions. Now, all of that makes a lot of sense. You know all of these things already. Let's drop a layer deeper. You can feel the air on your skin. You can feel the weight of your legs, your hips. Right now, see if you can feel that you have a body. Maybe you can feel that you're breathing in this body right now. But your body's not who you are, is it? In your life, your hair has been longer or shorter, maybe. Your fingernails have grown and been cut. Your body has been smaller and bigger. And although your body changed, that wasn't the essence of who you were. You can drop one layer deeper, if you like. Think for another moment about the work that you do in your life, or the hobbies that you have, the relationships that you've got with your friends, with your family, with your loved ones, with your pets. Are you those relationships? Are you the work that you do? No, you're more than that. You're something deeper. What about the thoughts that you have and the emotions that you are experiencing right now? You don't always have the same thoughts or the same emotions, so those things are changing, just like your body. You're not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. Drop a layer deeper still. Who are you inside? What's the essence of who you are? This might be something you think of as your spirit or your soul or yourself or your connection with the divine. It doesn't matter how you connect with it. What is there inside of you that's remained unchanged? What is there inside of you that feels most important? Is it love? Is it truth? Is it alignment? Is it your dharma? Only you can start to answer these questions for yourself, and it's okay if they are just questions at this point. We're honing in on what's most precious, most valuable, most deep within you. Your higher self, your truer self, your essence, your spirit, your soul, yourself. And then as we sit here for just another moment longer, you're still inside your body. You still have thoughts and emotions. We still have a yoga mat. We're still wearing clothing, presumably. But we're a little bit more in touch with this deeper layer. And now you might ask yourself, what is going to serve me best? How can I support this higher self? How can I practice in a way that feels as though it's in alignment with those needs? What is there that I need to let fall away just for now, or cultivate in order to be more in touch with this deeper layer? Take a moment or two and see what arises for you. And it's okay if it's not anything right now. You don't need to have all of the answers right now. Sometimes it's better just to spend some time living the questions. If there is an insight that comes up or an intention you'd like to set, then you're welcome to bring your hands to your heart here and pause for a moment or two with that. And if not, you can just breathe comfortably and notice what arises. If you'd like to bow the chin to the chest at any time, you can do that. Take one breath where you are. And then, without feeling like there's any need to rush or hurry in any way, let's make our way to a tabletop position. We'll come to hands and knees. In your hands and knees position, how does it feel to spread the fingers wide? To have the knees under the hips. Let's start to make a big circle here. As you come forward, maybe a little weight settles into the hands. Feel what that feels like. When we set an intention at the beginning of our practice, it helps to inform everything that we do on our mat, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever it is that you're working with. So that if something I suggest is not in agreement with what you know is right for you, then you'll easily be able to say, all right, I'm going to do something a little bit different. Let's circle the other direction here. As you start to slow down a little bit now, we'll make our way toward child's pose. And if child's pose doesn't feel right for you, then feel free to stay with movement or to move into a downward facing dog
or find something that suits what you need right now a little bit better. Otherwise, we'll take a few breaths here. And then back to our tabletop position. From our tabletop position, step your right foot back behind you. Tuck the right toes under and stretch back through your right heel. You might have to step your hands forward a little bit in order to get a stretch there, in order to have some leverage. See how it feels to let the head drop, maybe shaking your head yes and no a few times. And then let's change. Right knee down, left leg back. And feel free to turn the toes a little bit one way or another. Good. And then drop your left knee back by the right. Step your right foot forward to the front of the mat. You can always use blocks if you have them, if that feels like it would be helpful. We're just going to glide the hips forward and back a few times, starting to warm up, moving a little bit of blood through the back of the legs, generating a little bit of heat maybe into the front of the left hip. Simple movements, stripping away what's not essential so that we can come home again and again in our practice to what we need. Just like we stripped away the non-essential units at the beginning of our class with meditation, as we started to decide what was really us and what was not. We can do that in our practice too. Next time that you come forward, pause here for a moment. Think about reaching forward a little bit with the chest. Let the left thigh feel heavy. We'll take 2 breaths here. And then the opposite, begin to straighten your right leg, send your sitting bones back, and put a little stretch into the back of the right leg, maybe letting the head bow toward the mat. And then right knee bends. Let's tuck the back toes under for a moment, lift the back knee. Feel your hands pressing into the floor or your blocks. Feel your left heel reaching back behind you. The chest reaches forward. And if you wanted to put your knee back down, of course you could do that. Then right arm up to the sky, stretch through the fingertips there. Stay for a few breaths here, experiencing both arms reaching away from one another. And the 2 legs too are reaching away from one another. See if there's anything extra that you don't need here. How could you make this simpler, more essential for you, more functional? And then we'll let the hand come down to the floor. Drop your back heel and we'll come up into Warrior Two. So a little bit of an untraditional start into our standing poses. And then in Warrior Two, a few moments here, maybe looking out over the front fingertips. I'm going to invite you to explore what you'd like to do here. If movement would feel good, you could bend and straighten the leg. Maybe the arms float up and down. Or today maybe is a day to be a little quiet with yourself and to simply feel the arm bones, where they are in space. Sense where your spine is inside your body. Feel the feet on the floor. And see if you can allow yourself simply to be in this pose. Let's take one more breath in our Warrior Two. And then straighten into your leg. Let's turn both sets of toes to face the long edge of the mat. Reach your arms overhead. And then we'll draw the hands through heart center. We'll do this a few times. Arms lift. Hands draw down. Now, as we're coming home again and again to ourselves, to our intention, to what's most important, what most supportive, most necessary for you, that may mean that you want to take away something. Maybe the arm movements aren't something you need right now. Maybe there's something else that feels like it makes more sense. The next time that the arms reach overhead, turn your palms out, bring the arms back into a 90-degree angle with the body, out to the sides, bend into your left knee, and we're in Warrior Two on the other side. So right now in the practice, I'm not mirroring you. So I'm saying my left leg, and I mean your left leg too. And then again on this side, is there any movement that your body needs or wants? Does it feel like it's extra right now to have the arms out to the sides? Would you rather let them hang? Maybe if we cut through some of the unnecessary stuff for you, whatever that is, you may find that you want to work a little more strongly. Maybe the leg wants to bend more. Maybe you need that in order to feel that you're inside your body today, in order to feel more alive. We'll have one more breath here in this warrior shape. And then take the hands to the hips, lift your back heel, and drop your right hand to the floor or a block, left arm up to the sky. So now we're in a twisting lunge doing the other side. Feel your shoulder blades, where are they on your back? Feel the two arms reaching away. Feel the essence of this shape. It's a twist. And if this twist isn't what your body needs, is there a twist that would feel better? And then let's lower your right knee toward the floor. Bring your left fingertips down to the floor or to blocks. And if you need to take a moment and bring your blocks over to the other side of the mat, go ahead. And we'll start here with that bend and straighten now of the left leg, just getting that little movement going. You may need to change your stance a little bit. You might need to widen it or take the legs closer or further apart. You can play. Now the next time that your left leg is more straight, let's hang out there for a few breaths. Feel that your tailbone pulls back, the chest pulls forward, and then maybe a sense of bowing or rounding or leaning or resting forward. See how that feels as you stay here. And then bend your left knee, will come forward and take a few breaths in this shape. Maybe seeing how would it be to let the hips feel a little heavier here. And as always, if you need a little more room for your body, you could take both hands to the inside of the foot. Really good. Now, hands stay where they are. Step your left knee back to the right, and we'll move through a few rounds of cat and cow. If you find that there's something else that would feel better for you, please find it for yourself. And then you're welcome to stay with cat and cow. Maybe it feels good now to move into child's pose, or maybe you'd like a downward facing dog. I'll give you a few breaths to come in and find what makes sense for you. And then if you're in down dog, you can drop the knees to the floor. Bring your left foot forward or back into the lunge shape. So left foot forward lunge. Now, arms reach overhead, lift up tall. Drop your elbows out to the sides here. Squeeze your shoulder blades together behind you, and then cross your right elbow over the left. You can either hold opposite shoulder blades or bring the hands together, kind of grab onto a finger or a thumb or whatever you've got. See if you can widen the shoulder blades behind you, maybe a little bit of a lift through the chest, And depending, maybe a little bit of a back bend too. How do you support your higher self in your yoga practice? Sometimes the more that we do, the more complicated it gets, the more we get a little bit lost. Sometimes we need to do a little bit more in order to connect with ourselves. Let's release arms. Taking your elbows wide again, squeeze your shoulder blades together behind you. And then fingertips down to the floor or blocks. Tuck your back toes under, and we'll rise up into a high lunge now. In your high lunge, the front knee is bent. The back knee could be any degree of bent or straight, whatever's going to feel right for you. And then how would it be to reach your arms overhead today? Let's try something here. How would it be to hook your thumbs? So I've just hooked my 2 thumbs together and spread the fingers wide. Might be a little bit different than how it usually is done for you. Take 3 breaths here. And bring your hands to your heart, press palm into palm. We're going to swivel open into goddess. Now in goddess shape, it's up to you where the legs are. Do they need to be more bent or straight? And that's going to depend on your intentions and your needs for today, as well as what your body's physically capable of doing. And then a little movement with the arms here. Turn the palms away from one another as you reach out through the hands, and then bring the hands back toward one another. We'll do a few of those. Out, pushing away, and in. 3 more. Remember that how we do this is up to you, so you're welcome to straighten the legs at any time you need to, or to sink deeper if that's what's needed. We've got 1 more. Pushing away, coming back together. Press palm into palm. Straighten your 2 legs if they were still bent, and then arms by the sides. Now, would it feel good to move a little bit here? Maybe shake out the legs, shake out the arms. Or does it feel like a time to just pause and breathe? See what you can notice. Maybe both things would feel good. And then 2 breaths here. Okay. Arms lift up, and then we'll fold forward from here. You can put as much of a bend in the knees as you like. We're coming into a wide-legged forward fold. A little movement here, bend into one knee and then another. Sway a little bit side to side. So we'll take a few moments to move, and then you can decide if you want to continue movement or drop into more of a quiet shape. Okay, let's try 2 straight-ish legs. They don't need to be straight, but they're not bending alternately. And see how that feels. Do you want to allow the head to drop toward the floor here? Would it feel better to bend one knee and then another? How do you support yourself here? You can choose where your hands go. If they want to come toward something, you can put them on blocks or the floor, or hold on to your big toe or your outer legs. Last 2 breaths. And a little more bend in the knees. Push yourself back up to stand. Roll the shoulders up and back and down. Let's turn the toes and the knees out a little bit, back into a little bit of a goddess, but we're just using this as a transition into high lunge, facing what was the front of the mat initially. And then in your high lunge, would you like to reach your arms overhead and hook the thumbs there? Do you want to clasp your hands behind you? See what would feel right for you. And just as we did with the other shapes, if you want to move, you can move, or you could just be still here. Let's take 2 more breaths. If you have the hands clasped behind you, let them go. Let's bring the hands back down to blocks or the floor. Step back to either downward facing dog or hands and knees. And then make your way to lie down on the floor. Make space for yourself. And then with your hands on either side of your chest, lift yourself up into a cobra. And then back down. We'll do that 2 more times. Cobra. And back down. And then just 1 more. Lift up for cobra. And all the way back down. And then let's rest for a moment here. You can place your forehead on your hands if you like, maybe elbows out to the side. Bend your knees, take the feet into the air, and let's drop the knees left and right a few times. A little windshield wiper here. And then both feet back down to the floor. Bring your hands back by the shoulders, and we'll press back to hands and knees or a downward facing dog. If you want a few breaths in child's pose, you can take that anytime. Now, let's make our way to a standing pose. Walk your feet toward the hands if you're in down dog, or come all the way up to stand, however you like. Then we'll roll the shoulders up and back and down. We'll take a moment or two to balance here. You can start with tree pose. Place the weight of the body into the left leg. Bring the right foot to the left leg, or whatever side you want to do first. Hands to heart, or wherever you want to go with the arms. Take a few breaths. Remember that even doing something as familiar, as simple as tree pose is an opportunity to strip away. Sometimes what we need to strip away, what we need to let go of is some of the familiarity, especially when we've done our yoga practice for so long that we can do it without even really thinking about it. If it becomes rote, if it becomes routine, then sometimes we need to shake it up a little bit. And if tree pose is very easy to balance in, you could try looking around the room or closing the eyes, which will make things much less familiar very quickly. Good. Both feet to the floor. Take a moment and ground before we find the second side. Your own time will come in, other foot to other leg. Make a choice about where you want your hands to go. Maybe today your tree's got branches. See what feels right for you. Last breath or two here. Whether balance is easy or you're deliberately challenging your balance today, just notice. And then both feet to the floor. Pause, breathe, and feel. One more breath here. Good. Now, standing camel pose. If you'd rather do this on your back, on your knees on the mat, that's fine too. But I'm going to teach it standing today. From wherever you are, we'll put a little bend into the knees to begin. Squeeze the back of the hips forward a little bit and think about lifting up through the front of the belly. So the lower back now should feel relatively spacious. We want to start out feeling as though there's nothing happening in the lower back. Then begin to bring yourself back into an upper body back bend. You might have the hands at the heart. You might have the hands by the hips. As you're leaning back, keep that lift through the belly, keep the engagement at the back of the hips. And your gaze can go wherever you need it to. So you don't need to drop your head back here, especially if that's causing you pain. Please don't.
We'll take 2 breaths. And then push the feet into the floor. Come all the way back up. Arms by the sides. Take a moment to breathe. Let's do a second round of camel pose. You can either have the hands in the same position or try something different. Begin again by engaging the back of the hip, lifting through the belly. And then find yourself going backward as though you were leaning back over a beach ball. If there's any sign of discomfort or it doesn't feel right for you, then stay more upright and instead think about broadening across the chest by pulling the shoulder blades together. That's really good, important work too. Wherever you are, find a few breaths. And then push the feet into the floor to come back up. Arms by the sides. Take another moment to ground and center and feel. If you were to come home to yourself right here, right now, if you were to drop back into that essence of you, how do you feel like you're serving that self? Have you been moving or breathing or practicing in a way that feels like it's in alignment with what you really need? Last back bend here, and I'm going to offer you a few choices. Either repeating the back bend we've already done, maybe you want to add arms overhead for something else, or maybe it's camel pose with the knees on the floor, or bridge pose. If you need something that feels a little more mellow at this point, try bridge pose or cobra. Otherwise, final standing camel, squeeze the back of the hip, lift up through the belly. Think about going backward over a high jump bar as you move in to your standing camel or whatever back bend that's serving you today. When you've had enough, come all the way back to your starting position. And if you're seated or lying down, just stay where you are, and we'll join you in a moment. Take 2 breaths here. And allow yourself to soak in the after effects of what you just did and felt. Then we'll all make our way to a seated position. Take your 2 legs in front of you. Keep your left leg straight, bend your right knee, and very simple, Janu Shirshasana here, leaning forward. Walk your way into whatever variation of this shape feels right for you. If you feel as though you've gotten disconnected a little bit or distracted in some way, see if you can reconnect, dropping all the way through those layers of self. What is it that's needed? And if it feels like it's hard to connect with that, try sitting upright. Take away some of the noise. Or you might need to close your eyes, or you might need to open them. Simplify things for yourself, whatever that means for you. Let's take one more breath here. And then back to the starting position to change legs. Right leg straight, left leg bent. Walk yourself forward until you find where you want to be with it. Okay. Back to your starting position. Come all the way up. Let's change legs one more time. Bend your right knee, keep the left leg straight. And then we'll do something a little bit different here. Keep your left leg where it is, but pull your right sitting bone back. So the right knee now is further away from the front of the mat. Take your right hand, it's the one on the same side as the bent knee, and tuck it around behind your back. Some of us will be able to grab the other thigh. My arm doesn't make that. So if your arm doesn't reach the thigh, you can tuck the hand into the waistband, or you can just have the arm against the lower back, which is what I'm doing. Then the right shoulder pulls back a little bit. You might even feel a little stretch through the front of the chest. With the left arm, we're reaching forward toward the front foot and turning the chest toward the back of the room. So it's not really a forward fold. It's more of an opportunity to broaden across the chest and to have your right arm, the back arm, in internal rotation. Take a few breaths here. Notice if you're trying to make this anything, and see if you can just let it be. Pare it down a little bit. Last breath here. And then back around to center, and we'll change legs. Right leg forward one more time. Pull the left sitting bone back. Your left arm now wraps around the lower back. You can use the right arm to kind of pull it a little further. It's okay if you can't grab onto the leg. That's not like the goal. I'm just going to have my hand kind of tucked around the side of the waist. The left shoulder pulls back, no pain, and then the right arm reaches out along the leg. Now, if you wanted to lean forward toward the foot, that would be okay. But really what we're after here is a feeling of broadening across the front of the chest. And you can look over the left shoulder if that feels good, or you could look out along the right arm. Take a few breaths here. Psst. Good boy. Good. Let's unwind, come back to center. Take your left leg long one more time. With your left leg straight now again and your right leg bent, we've got one more pose in this position. We're going to do a little twist to the right first. Lift the chest. Now we're twisting more than we're reaching. Bring the right hand behind you. Left hand can go to either leg. Look over your right shoulder. The right fingers now are a little kickstand. And if it feels like the ground is far away, this happens for me sometimes, you may want a block under your hand. Give it a little support. Sometimes the body can be a real distraction, especially if we're trying to get the body to do something that it's not easily able to do. So if we can give it a little prop, a little help, then we can drop more easily into the essence of the pose, coming back home to the essence of ourself. Back around to center, right leg straight, left leg bent, final time, twisting to the left. Use a block or a support as needed. Right hand can go onto wherever it feels natural. I've got mine hooked sort of around my left leg here. Right hand is hanging onto my left leg. And then breathe here. But notice if there's any quality of pulling or pushing or striving, and see if you can just let it be what it is for now. Nothing fancy. At its heart, this practice is simply a way to get back in touch with what really matters. And we can make it as complicated as we want to be, but sometimes it's nice to let go of some of that and make it really simple. Let's bring ourselves back to center. Straighten your left leg in front of you, and now it's time to rest. So if that means Shavasana for you today, great, you can lie down. Otherwise, you might choose to do seated meditation, or if there's a quiet pose that's really restful for you, then I encourage you to do that.
And we'll just take a little while. We won't be there for a very long time. But I want you to set yourself up as though you were going to be there for a while. Make it really comfortable for yourself. Make it really sustainable. You know, the truth is that things are always changing around us. We're not in charge of, and we don't have control of those things. But what we do have access to, if we work on it, is this avenue, this route home to ourselves. And the more often we practice coming home to it, the easier it is to get there again and again. Last few moments of Shavasana or your rest. If the mind has drifted, see if you can bring it back. And finally, we can start to wake ourselves up a little bit. Let your breath deepen. Wiggle the fingers, toes, wrists, and ankles. Maybe the arms reach overhead, or you pull the knees in towards you. And then back to a seat, where we'll reconnect one more time. If you'd like to invite your hands back to the space of the heart for a moment, you can do that. Remember what's most important. Remember what sustains you and supports you from inside. Let's take one more breath in and out together here. And then bowing chin toward chest. Lift the gaze. Eyes could blink open if they're closed. Really great work today. Thank you for practicing. Thank you for coming home again and again to yourself the way that you do. While not everybody may be drawn to work in this kind of way, for those of us that are, we know that this can have such a powerful effect on not just our mood, but on who we are and how we are in the world. So I want to thank you for being in that club with me and for being willing to explore and play from time to time. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Be well.